Welcome back to Steady Rollman presents Master Nyarlathotep. In this episode, we lie to a policeman for about 5 seconds before he sees straight through us, and we go to the funeral of Jackson Elias. Let's take us to the keeper to lead us away.
Jackson Elias is dead, murdered and disemboweled in his hotel room by cultists, seemingly for what he knew. Determined to understand what he had uncovered and armed with a handful of papers from your late friend's briefcase, you began your investigations yesterday on the snowy streets of New York at Emerson Imports, where you learned of Jackson's inquiries regarding imports from Kenya and of their final destination, Silas and Kwane's Harlem-based African art emporium, Juju House. Later that day, you visited another potential lead, Jonah Kensington, Elias's friend and publisher at Prospero House, where he showed you correspondence received from Jackson whilst he was abroad over the past few months, in Nairobi, Hong Kong and London. The correspondence was both intriguing and concerning. Jackson spoke of a huge story that he was working on centred around members of the Carlisle expedition still being alive. However, his final notes, handed to Kensington in person only days before his death, were so bewildering and fragmentary as to call into question Elias's very sanity immediately prior to his terrible demise. Today, Saturday the 17th of January 1925, Douglas and Lex have headed into Midtown Manhattan to the New York Public Library to research the Lloyd's Register of Shipping, whilst Jacob and Stanton are 4 miles north of their colleagues at the Columbia University Library in Upper Manhattan, pouring through dusty volumes on African cults. So, just to recap what Douglas and Lex found last time around in the voluminous New York Public Library. You were looking through the Lloyd's shipping records. You found that a ship by the name of the Dark Mistress, a 90-foot British registered diesel yacht, registered to the name of Alfred Penhurst, London, seemed to be the closest and most likely match to the photograph that you had, which showed only the first 3 letters, DAR, on the side of the ship. That is as much as you could ascertain, I'm afraid, from the records. So, in Columbia University Library, we have Stanton and Jacob, as I said, pouring through tomes on ancient African cults, dusty tomes that are hardly ever referenced. Seeing what you were looking to see, if you could find anything on the symbol, weren't you, that you found etched into Jackson's forehead? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if I could ask you both to make a library use roll, Stanton, because of your familiarity with the Columbia University Library, you get a bonus die on this one.
Thank you all. No pressure.
That's an ordinary success for me.
Okay, excellent.
Bonus die.
So that's 66 or 36, yeah?
So 36 is a hard success.
Oh, it's a hard success. Okay.
A man who knows his libraries.
Yep. Okay, Jacob, you, after a few hours of pouring through said tomes, you have discovered from your researches that the rune that you have seen, the rune you're researching, seems to be used or has been used by a cult thought to have descended from a sect driven out of dynastic Egypt. The cult, known as the Bloody Tongue, believed to have originated in Kenya, although its ongoing existence is unclear. Okay, Stanton, in addition to the information that Jacob has found, you have also managed to find a specific account of an encounter with a member of the cult in Kenya, and it's not dated, but it looks quite old. However, the account describes the fact that the cult executioners or assassins wore headdresses with a strip of red cloth dangling from them. Higher members of the cult wore an actual tongue taken from sacrificial victims on their headdresses rather than the red cloth. But that between the two of you, that's all you have managed to uncover, the cult of the bloody tongue.
Yeah, seems to go back a long way though. Driven out
I
from
mean,
was it
dynastic
Egypt?
Dynastic
Dynastics.
Egypt.
That's
Yeah.
ancient Egypt then.
So yeah, you're right. It's
So talking pharaohs and pyramids.
we're talking exactly that.
I'll look over at Jacob. So maybe these things are connected.
There are connections to both Egypt and West Africa, aren't there? So I think the Carlisle expedition started in Egypt, didn't it? And then they ostensibly went to Kenya on holiday. One wonders whether they discovered something that led them to West Africa.
Yeah, it doesn't sound as though they were just going there to take in the sights.
No.
So where did the information in Egypt that sent them south? Did we retrace their steps to Cairo first?
Carefully.
But we're still searching around blind at the moment.
We are. Perhaps we ought to meet with Douglas and Lex again and share what we found.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think you'd arranged to spend the morning researching two groups, and then you arranged to meet up, I believe.
Yeah, we're definitely going to meet up at lunchtime. Can't quite remember whether it was in my apartment or down at Lexington.
We all agreed to meet at that place. Remember that place?
Yeah, I think
they were going to give me a call, weren't they?
Our
At my
special
appointment.
place.
Yep.
Okay, so if you once you finish your researches, you're gonna that was the arrangements with it. You were going to Douglas and Lex were going to phone Stanton at the university and then arrange to meet up.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so are you going to arrange to get back together? Okay, where are you going to go? To somewhere in the city or one of your individual places, or
Just go. Let's meet up at a cafe or a diner. Sorry, not a cafe.
okay. Well, plenty of diner. Okay, you meet up at a diner just south of Central Park, which is about halfway between where you currently are. Okay.
We shall exchange information.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think what we've learned is of any immediate benefit. We have a new name and the name of a ship, but we have no particular connection so far to the Orient, whereas you have a connection to Kenya and Egypt, which is interesting.
Darren, do either Douglas or I know about Juju House, given that they're sort of in a similar-ish line of business? We've not heard of them.
No, you've not heard of it. So you feel like it might be a different type of art to the kind of art that that you guys are involved with it being a kind of low-end tribal kind of trinkets rather than actual art that's worth any money.
Well, we had been focusing on New York previously, hadn't we? And I think, unless I'm missing something, all that's left here is Juju House.
Yeah.
But I'm a little apprehensive about blundering in there without a bit more intelligence.
Yeah, it seems like it's the only one left in the city, but also we haven't learnt enough to go there yet.
Yeah, what would we hope to learn from going there?
And in a similar vein, the headquarters of the Carlisle Corporation is here in Manhattan, but we'd look fools if we turn up.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like, tell us stuff. It's not really.
No. What about Miriam Attright at Arkham? She was she wrote the letter, didn't she, about to Jackson about the book that he was looking for. I wonder if she could. She has an interest. She has an interest in cults as well. She might be able to tell us more about the bloody tongue.
Well, that would at least give us some degree of direction, because we have questions that we could ask her as opposed to just randomly hoping something falls in our lap by going to these other places.
It seems more likely that she's an ally rather than someone we should be wary of.
Yeah, I agree. So let's go visit her then. And who would want to take lead on this conversation?
When you say you're going to go and visit her, she's at the Harvard University Library. So
should we arrange an appointment rather than just? Is it about 2 or 3 hours?
Yeah, I wouldn't just turn up.
Yeah, I mean, the option of calling, you can call her trying to call her rather than having to travel there. You could try and do that.
That might be advantageous, and then if she's unhappy to speak on the phone, then we could go and visit.
Okay, bear with me a second.
I suggest you take lead, Jacob, based on who has the greatest knowledge of the occult. I would still count myself in not say enthusiastic amateur, but I don't know enough to speak to an academic on it.
I have spent some time studying the occult since I've been in New York, so I do know a fair bit, but I wouldn't put it at a degree level, for example.
Do we think she's unlikely to be aware of Jackson's death, is she?
Mm.
Well, yeah, possibly. I think it was a fair. Don't know how much of a splash it would have made outside New York.
Saturday today, is it? Because we do have the funeral on.
Well, it's not also time critical that we would have to travel and see her at the weekend. She might not be too forthcoming in any case. Phone call would probably be the wisest. The question is who makes the call.
Well,
And
I'm happy to speak to her unless someone else would rather.
who would be a good candidate.
After introductions, obviously I'm happy to talk, but sometimes I have the habit of putting one's foot in one's mouth.
Okay, so Jacob, are you going to call? Are you?
Yeah. How does the
Where are you
phone
gonna go
system
to?
work? Is it one of those sort of old-fashioned arrangements where you dial an operator and
You have
say I
to-
want to be put through?
Yeah, generally that's the case for anything else. Anything anything outside of the city, that would be the case. If it was a long distance call, it would you can sometimes have to wait like up to an hour to be put through. But with it being
Right.
relatively short, it shouldn't take that long.
Well, I'll pick up the phone and dial the operator and ask to be put through to Harvard University. Do we have any idea? Just before I make the call, actually, she was at the library, wasn't she? I think. Just trying to think which school she'd be in.
Yeah, so she's at Harvard University Library.
Oh, the library.
Cam-
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll ask to be
Cambridge,
put through to the
Massachusetts.
Worth
the
looking at her
library.
note. Worth looking at her note again before we
Yeah.
speak to her.
If you look on, I'm just going to put Roll20 onto the handouts, and I just made it at the front, so you should be able to see it now.
Oh, there we are. Yeah.
She has a decency to type, so I don't have to try and decipher her handwriting.
So it's quite likely from the letter that he went there after that letter.
Okay, so we need to know what the book was that he was looking for, and if he did go up there and see her, what are the titles was he looking?
So if I tell her about his death and perhaps level with her that we're trying to investigate his death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell it we're piecing it together.
Yeah.
I guess we need to find out if it's worth the trip to Boston or not.
Yeah. Okay. I'll make the call.
Okay. So you're calling Harvard University library, just asking to
Yeah.
be put through to Miriam, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, the operator says, your call has been put through, sir.
Thank you.
And you hear a voice on the other end.
Good
Hello?
afternoon. Good afternoon. Is that Miriam Attright?
Yes. Who's this?
Jacob Lockhart. Good afternoon. You had some correspondence last year with a colleague of mine, Jackson Elias, a writer from Prospero House Publishers.
Mr. Elias?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I've just heard about what's happened to him. It's terrible.
It is. He was a friend and a expedition companion of mine and my associates. We were devastated to hear of his death.
Me also. I was a great fan of his works. He was a lovely man. Very interesting and always had time for me. Terrible.
Well, he was. We do you have a few minutes?
Yes, of course.
We're well, myself and my colleagues, we accompanied Jackson on an expedition several years ago and became very close as a result of that. We're assisting the police in investigating his murder, and we have some of Jackson's papers, and within those papers is a letter from you, dated the 7th of November, 1924. Regarding a book that Jackson was seeking. It may prove to be a dead end, but we're investigating anything that might shed some light on what Jackson was doing in the weeks and months leading up to his death. Do you recall the exchange of correspondence you had with him?
Yes, I remember writing back to him. And he called me. Maybe just before Christmas. I told him that sadly we no longer had the volume.
Can you tell me what the volume was that he was looking for?
An old text, Africa's Dark Sects, it was called. Quite a disturbing volume from what I understand. But oddly, as I told Jackson, it mysteriously disappeared from the library several months before he requested.
How odd. Was that a book that you'd studied yourself?
Well, not really. No, it was quite a disturbing looking text, and no, it wasn't something that I had really spent any time looking at. But it was very odd the way it just vanished. Very odd. Now this has happened to Jackson. It's quite frightening, really.
Well, it is, which is why we're trying to find out as much as we can about what he was doing before his death. Your letter referred to the information he was seeking could be found in other volumes. Would you be able to share with me what information he was seeking?
He was wanting to research the cult of the Bloody Tongue, I believe they were called. I just offered him the option of maybe trying some of the other volumes we have here. We have quite a lot of niche text that may have been able to offer up information that he was after.
And did he visit to look at the alternative texts?
No, he never got round to it. He said he was abroad when he called, and he was planning on coming back to New York, which he obviously did, but he won't be coming here now, will he?
No, sadly. My colleagues and I are attending his funeral on Monday.
Yes, I was thinking of coming myself. Probably will, actually.
I'm sure you'd be very welcome. Perhaps we'll see you there.
It's only a few hours drive for me, and I think it's the least I can do.
I understand. Go ahead.
No, I'm just being silly. Just standing here now in the library on my own, thinking back to the day that book vanished, and now this has happened. I'm hoping that there's no connection between the two things. I know that Jackson spent a lot of time researching cults, and that side of investigation can put people in danger, can't it?
Well, we think it put Jackson in danger. I understand you're something of an expert on cults yourself.
I'm not an expert, no, more have a passing familiarity. I mean, read all of Jackson's books. I do find them interesting, but also quite disturbing as well. I know Jackson was very much of the mind that there is no such thing as the supernatural, and that everything has a logical explanation. But I myself are not so convinced.
No, nor am I.
Yeah.
Let's go. Why she's not convinced? I'm leaning in.
Is that from personal experience? That your view?
Not personal experience myself, but I have friends that have seen things, and yes, I've been involved in the odd séance. I know that there are many charlatans that run such things, but I still believe there is no smoke without fire. Now I think back to the day the book vanished. I remember there was an unspeakable odour in the collection. The day we noticed that the sex book was missing. It was very odd. Very, very odd.
Could you place this odour?
It is very strange, this. I pride myself in having a photographic memory. It helps me in my job, as you can imagine.
I can.
But there is something I feel I should be able to recollect about the day the book vanished, but I have racked my brains and I just can't remember. It really troubles me. It's as if there is a memory there locked away, but something is preventing me from accessing it. Does that make sense?
It does.
It's really quite an unusual feeling, as if someone has almost tried to wipe that memory from me. I mean, as stupid as that sounds, I have thought about it long since Jackson contacted me, but I still have not been able to cover the memory. There is something that I should know about the loss of that book, but I just cannot remember it.
And has anyone else expressed an interest in that book?
No.
Do you have any records as to who might have looked to the book previously?
Yes, we have. It is a tome that we would not lend out. It would only be able to be referenced in the library. So we wouldn't keep a record of who would be doing that, but we wouldn't allow anybody to read it unless they were a member. I can't remember anybody. It is quite an obscure tome, as I mentioned. I can't really even remember anybody accessing it previously. In fact, other than its name, I can't remember much about it at all, which again is very odd.
And the Bloody Tongue, is that a cult that you have any knowledge of?
No, I'm afraid not. It sounded quite horrendous to me. I have not seen any reference to it in any previous writings of Jackson. Is this cult got something to do with his murder?
Well, that's one of the things we're trying to establish, or alternatively to rule out, so that the police can focus on other lines of inquiry. But it is a concern.
I read in the newspaper that the police are pursuing some connections between this murder and some other slayings in Harlem. Is that right?
So we understand.
The newspaper article said that they'd already arrested a man who was waiting to be executed in Sing Sing prison. Did he have an accomplice or something?
I don't know. We haven't spoken to the police for a day or so. So quite so up to date with what's happening on their inquiries. Miriam, my colleagues are here with me. Would you mind awfully if I just check with them whether there's anything else they'd like to ask you? I don't want to trouble you again.
Well, maybe I have already said too much over the telephone. Maybe if we are both attending the funeral in 2 days, then you could maybe ask me any more questions then if you wish to.
Maybe she could bring some. Would she be able to bring any of the tomes with her that information to about the Bloody Tongue?
Well, that would be helpful, Miriam. Are there any books that we could perhaps look at that may tell us a little more about the Bloody Tongue?
I will see what I can locate between now and Monday. And if I find anything, I will bring it with me. How does that sound?
That would be wonderful, Miriam. Thank you.
Sorry, what did you say your name was again?
Jacob Lockhart.
So I will see you at the funeral.
Well, we'll see you there, and I can introduce you to my colleagues as well. Thank you so much, Miriam, for your time, and we'll see you on Monday.
Thank you, and goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
Okay, the phone goes dead.
My immediate first thought was when she said she couldn't remember anything. Do you remember what happened to Lex? Maybe she was.
Yes.
It sounds suspiciously familiar.
That would be my immediate thought.
Mm-hmm. Something magical, maybe, or even just ordinary hypnotism.
It's a very fair. The smell as well, of course, would be the smell of decay, perhaps, that we smelt on the vampires and on
Aldous.
Yes, Aldous. Yeah.
On who?
Larkin.
Okay, yeah. Augustus.
Augustus, not Aldous. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, not Aldous.
I know who you meant. It's been 4 years.
If it smelled like Augustus Larkin's bedroom, I can't believe she'd have forgotten about that.
Exactly. But the fact it was so strong that she retained the memory of it despite having been hypnotized or in some way magically incapacitated.
Was this the Bloody Tongue trying to put Jackson off their trail, taking the book? They must have known he was looking for it.
Something in there that they didn't want him to know.
Or is there somebody else trying to hunt down the Bloody Tongue?
Yeah, there is that. Absolutely. Or the other murders. We should be looking for connections for the other victims, because they killed our friend because he was in investigating. But why were the others killed?
Yes, it's ritual. ritual killings.
But there must be some,
Um,
unless they're just random, which would be unusual, I would guess.
Or just a good lieutenant might know a little, might be able to
Provide a little
tell
bit
tell
more
us a bit more.
information on the. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, would we want to speak to that suspect, Hilton Adams? Or sorry, convicted man Hilton.
Get that opportunity. But,
That would have to go through Lieutenant Poole.
or talk to his lawyer. I thought his lawyer would be a better place to start. Anyway,
Yeah,
we have
so-
we have additional possibilities. Where to next?
It's about mid-afternoon now, Saturday. The darkness is beginning to, the light is beginning to fade. The air is becoming very chill once again. A load of frozen snow still lies about on the street outside.
Gentlemen, where does it take us next? I would suggest. There's not a huge amount we can do on a Saturday afternoon. We could go
No.
back to the library and try and do some additional investigation here on the Bloody Tongue. I don't know your library. I don't know whether it would have.
Well, I think I've exhausted what I could find in Columbia. I could always try heading your way, but looking at the New York Public, if they have
I
nothing.
would be slightly concerned if they had something along.
Yep, it's a long shot. Well, they might have something, but how useful it would be, it's debatable. Is it worth looking to trying to find out more about this sect driven out of Egypt? That's going to be even harder to research than Bloody Tongue in Kenya.
Yeah.
I understood they were one and the same thing, though, weren't they? The
Yeah,
cult
that was
driven out of Egypt.
Yeah.
That was my understanding. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, but may have started as something different.
An earlier
I guess
incarnation.
probably Egypt is the Library at Alexandria. That, more likely to find something locally. Yeah, so we need to exhaust New York first, and then if we want to speak to Lady Carlisle, I've forgotten her name. Actually.
Well, why do we want to speak to her? I mean, what would we hope to learn from her?
Was
Was
this Erica? She came to
Yes.
Mombasa to search for the missing Carlisle expedition.
Yeah.
Yes, so she may know more. There may be details that we've not unearthed. She has.
Jackson believed that not all of the expedition members were killed, but if that's right, what happened to them? Have they gone to ground? Largely, they were quite prominent members of society.
Well, let's back up slightly. Let's piece together what we know so far. So we've got two threats. One is the expedition itself, which was obviously a cover for a slightly different investigation. So we need to piece that together. So following their footsteps, and by extension, that's probably will tell us what Jackson was doing. But then we need to find out how far did he get in order to himself killed. But there is something else going on in New York because there have been other similar murders. So they didn't come here specifically to kill him. And there's the Juju house. So maybe there is cultist activity here as well. So that's actually 3.
Of the people that we encountered in Jackson's room, did any escape?
No.
No.
We got them all. So if they were the only people involved, then that's good for the citizens of New York. But more likely they were part of a wider conspiracy.
Yes.
So they're unlikely to be more members of the cult here in New York, presumably directing.
So our biggest leap is that that's something to do with the.
In terms of lines of inquiry left here in New York, we've got Carlisle's sister, Erica. She's going to be difficult to get close to, given her position in society.
Yeah, we've got nothing to give. We've got nothing to take to her.
No,
at the moment.
pretty much impossible.
We need evidence. And if we do end up having to travel, we're going to need funding. And if we can convince her that her original assumption is incorrect, she may help fund us, and she'll also provide us with additional information. But we should go to her last once we've got everything we can here to lay before her.
We've got Juju House as well, but I think we're all a little reluctant to blunder in there without a bit more knowledge. And then we've got Lieutenant Poole and possibly trying to establish some links with the previous murder victims. Not sure if there's anything else.
I
Or
think
is here in New
probably
York, is there?
well, we've got, and then some more information that we might find out at the funeral. I would suggest that trying to find a connection between the other victims and
Yeah.
potentially our convicted killer, because if it was, maybe they're trying to get rid of him as well to place blame on him.
Mm.
I guess. But they said that I would say investigating that would the least risky step, which might get us some useful information.
I agree with that. The more background information we can research, it's safer. Better to be forewarned and not.
Okay,
Or-
so am I to assume that you're planning on heading to Precinct 7A then to speak to Lieutenant Paul, or?
Yes, I think so.
And he'll want an update on our investigation.
We're going to be completely open with him. I can't think of a reason why we wouldn't.
That's what I think of it, Douglas. It's probably perhaps something you could set in motion. But there was a reference to Jackson having been talking to Scotland Yard and the press in London. Do you still have any contacts at Scotland Yard?
I do. However, I left slightly late, so I can make contact, but whether or not that would be.
Is it worth setting that hair running?
Let me think about that. There is a reason why I don't stay in my apartment. So providing if I speak to the wrong person there, then I may attract attention that I don't. So yeah, potentially, but let's exhaust some other things first.
All right.
Before I go down that.
So, Lieutenant Paul.
Okay, you're going to head back down to the Chelsea district of Manhattan and seek out Lieutenant Paul, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, heading down to Precinct 7A, you ask to see Lieutenant Paul, and you are shown straight through. He wants to see you. So you're shown straight through to his office with hardly any delay whatsoever. Come in, take a seat. I just put a call into your hotel, Blake, but you obviously weren't there. Yeah, sit down, all of you. I got some things I need to talk to you about.
Us too. So take a seat. You first.
Yeah. Can I get you all a cup of coffee or anything?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
He looks at Lex. Says, Lex, he looks at you. Says, how are you recovering from that nasty one you took?
Well, I'm popping about, but I'm not gonna lie, I've felt better. It's damn sore.
Yeah, well, you're doing well. You're doing well, boy. Even walking around with that, to be honest.
Just follow the guys around and stay quiet and relax for a bit. So, yeah, it's bad.
You want to be careful where you follow them, he says, half smiling and handing you a coffee.
If I don't follow them where they're headed, they won't come back.
So, he says, he goes over and closes the door to his office. I want to discuss the briefcase found in Elias's room, open and empty. Anybody know anything about it? He looks at you all from face to face.
Did you check the guys that were in there, the bodies?
Nothing on the bodies. Looks to me like this briefcase probably belonged to our deceased friend, but the fact it was open with nothing in it suggests that, well, it doesn't suggest
that somebody's taken it. It suggests that.
Yeah, and
maybe we missed one. The window was open.
So we found the briefcase in the room open, but with nothing in it. I just wonder whether any of you had seen anything that was in the case.
No.
You feel his eyes kind of piercing into you, all of you. Is that a collective no, or just a no from you?
I was too busy bleeding.
No, Douglas is right.
So you didn't see the case. You didn't see the case.
Well, no, I was too busy shooting and then calling you.
Okay, can you make a? I think can Jacob and Douglas make? Trying to work out what it would be.
Pants on fire.
Like pants on fire. It's either fast talk, persuade. Yeah, I mean it can be any of the persuade. It can be fast talk. It can be any of the social skills that you feel that you're particularly good at. So just choose one,
including charm.
So I'm just going to have a look at charm because I have a feeling that might not be quite as appropriate. Physical attraction, seduction, flattery.
Maybe not.
Well, warmth of personality. Okay, yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he
Okay.
feels like you're nice. So yeah, you have a feeling that Lieutenant Poole is an experienced policeman who probably has seen through quite a lot of ice. So therefore, you may need to roll quite well for this.
Wah, wah, wah.
Would you like a flake with your 99?
Okay, I passed. It's just a pass.
Okay, he looks straight at you, and he pulls up a chair, like kind of scrapes along the floor, and he sits right close to you, Jacob, and he says, "I've seen that look before, many times. Come on, just make it easy for us all. I ain't no wet behind the ears flatty that'll swallow any line. I need you to level with what was in the briefcase."
All right, look, Lieutenant Paul, some of Jackson's papers.
Now we're getting somewhere. He stands back up and moves the chair away. Some of Jackson's papers, which I presume you still have.
We do, but I don't think you want to see them, and I don't think you want to be investigating down that line. There is a reason why you asked us to help.
Yeah, you're right. What kind of papers are you talking?
Well, you know what his line of work was.
Yeah.
Well, he was investigating a death cult, and we think that's what got him killed. So those papers relate to the cult and the connections that he was putting together. We're trying to retrace that, but it is more our line than yours. I don't think you're going to, one, get much traction in that area, and two, I don't think that standard inquiries would make much of the kind of information that we're potentially going to find. It might be a stretch of the imagination for many of your colleagues.
Yeah, you might be right.
I would rather that we didn't know about some of these things, but once your eyes have been opened to it, you can't close them again.
Have you got them here?
I don't have them on me. No. Who is carrying them?
Jacob's got them, hasn't he?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. Yeah, I have them with me.
Come on, let me have a look at them.
I'll get the papers out and show them to him.
He
What do
picks
you
up
want to know?
he picks up the card and says, smiles. I had a call from Mr. Emerson this morning, stating that Elias visited there, and 4 men visited him yesterday, 2 of which gave their names as Percy Elliott and Alexander Cotton.
Was us?
Yeah. Description perfectly matched you guys, so I kind of knew that you were onto something. He flicks through the papers and he's like, "What the hell is any of this stuff?"
Exactly so.
Matchbox from Shanghai,
Seems that he was
Penhew Foundation in London. I mean, this is all a load of nothing to do with anything here, surely.
exactly. He travelled widely. Oh, we first met him in Peru. I think there's things here that go way, way beyond your jurisdiction. I think the answers potentially aren't in this
Okay.
country.
Okay, yeah. He puts all the papers back together and he hands them back to you. I ain't seen those. Okay, you do what you got to do with them.
Well, if we find anything useful, and by useful I mean hold up in a court of law and would help your investigation, we will let you know. And we should have told you about what we found, but it was more for your protection.
Well, they're probably safer in your hands than they are in mine. I got Robson putting the squeeze on me to haul your butts in for plugging those goons that did for Elias. I'm going out on a limb for you, see, and I can't afford for him to give him any more lead to throw at us. So you need to watch what you do.
We will.
I've kept you out of the rags for your own safety. The official report says the perpetrators of the murder were taken down, but they don't say who by. Even the press don't know. I would suggest you keep it that way.
No particular desire to advertise the fact.
Captain Robson has asked to see your statements, but so far my boss has blocked this, said it's unnecessary. But he seems to have an unsavoury interest in finding out who you are. Does Robson?
Is that in his nature? Does he usually take that kind of level of interest in?
When it's anything to do with the Hilton Adams case, then yes, he seems to be quite protective.
So what we were going to ask, one of the things we wanted to speak to you about, is there anything you can tell us about the other victims? Were there any connections?
Yeah, that's the weird thing. There wasn't. They were all the other murder victims. They're white, black, poor, rich, from different parts of the city. The only connection was they visited Harlem at night. That's it. Other than that, we ran into a brick
You know why they visited Harlem?
And why at night? I
Why
live
do you
in
visit
Hell's,
Harlem at night? I mean, how long have you been in New York? Come on.
I live in Hell's Kitchen. I wouldn't go to Harlem at night.
Well, there's those that think that it's the center of the universe, music and art and such. It's if you're of a certain demographic, it's a place to be, a place to be seen. But there wasn't anything else that connected them in any way. Captain Robson took over the case and dealt with. He was keen to round up what he said was some sort of gang activity. Yeah, so we got kind of pushed out. Interesting though that this murder of Jackson seems to be the only one that's occurred outside of Harlem. This is a long way further than the others. The only other thing I can tell you, which is he kind of looks at the floor, is like, disgust. Two of the murder victims had their tongues taken out. What's all that about?
Which two?
Don't remember the names, but I can find that out for you if it's significant. But
Anything different about them compared with the others? You've already said they were all different breeds and types. Yeah, which two though?
yeah, I can have a look, but I don't remember there being anything significant about them. We just thought at the time that it was about not talking. Maybe it's all
Well, that
there's something not right going on there, and I think Robson's right at the centre of it.
How long's Robson been here? What's his story?
Yeah, he's been in the force. Must be 20 years. He's coming toward the end. He must be close to retirement. So, well, I don't want to speak ill of a colleague, but all I can say is, them suits and shoes that he wears, they're not second hand. Put it that way. I can't see how he can afford those on a captain's salary. But then those are just rumours, if you know what I mean.
That gives us a few things to go on.
The thing is, the problem is there are so many speakeasies and gangs working here, especially in Harlem, that it's so. How can I put it? I mean, Blake, you understand it. It can sometimes be easier to do the wrong thing than to do the right thing, if you get my drift.
It can wear you down.
Not that I'm sticking up for Robson. He's no, I'd spit on him if I could, but he's seems to be untouchable for some reason. They've probably said too much now anyway, and putting a lot of trust in you. You just don't mess up. If you're going to be doing poking around, then you need to keep a low profile.
We'll try not to draw any attention to ourselves.
Well, these goons that caught up with Elias, they'll catch up with you if you're not careful. You know that, don't you?
Well, our hope is that there aren't any more of them, but a bit of a forlorn hope.
And we're painfully aware of what could happen. Wincing.
Yeah, there was a reporter who I think her name was Scholzenberg at the Times. She contacted me yesterday. I wanted to know more about how the murders were taken down, but she did some stuff previously around Hilton Adams and his. I think she's in with Adams's wife. She's kind of running some sort of campaign to try and get him cleared. Maybe it'd be worth speaking to her.
Definitely.
What a mess.
What's your take on Hilton Adams? He's the right man?
My take on him?
Hmm.
In what way?
Well, do you think they've got the right man?
No. I doubted it before, and it's before your friend's murder, and I doubt it even more now. It was all too convenient.
Gentlemen, is there anything else we need to talk about?
There are still disappearances in Harlem too. You know, I still hear whispers. That was something that always happened. I mean, not just murders, but missing. Again, Robson keeps a blanket of secrecy around it all. He'll haul in the odd unfortunate now and again and frame him up for it, lock him away. But it still keeps on happening.
Is there any pattern to that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, again, I haven't been able to get close enough. You know, I can't. It's out of my jurisdiction, so I don't know whether there's a pattern or not. But I hear whispers.
Men, women, age, colour.
No, I can't help you. It's almost like we kind of accept that Robson is. Well, we've all got our crosses to bear, and this job ain't easy. But Robson, I think that he has got a lot of loyal men around him, and it's like I said, he's untouchable. So if you stick your head above the parapet and question his means or methods, then you're liable to end up early retirement. If you understand me, it may be a coward's way out, but I've got a wife and kids to feed too. I can't afford to put my neck on the line.
No, and we wouldn't want to put you in any risk either. I know you've already done a lot for us.
But put it this way, I'd be over the moon if we could find something concrete on him. And if you can, bring it to me.
Well,
Anyways, if that's it, I've got work to be doing.
I think so. Gentlemen, shall we?
Yeah.
Yes, you've been most helpful, Lieutenant. Thank you very much.
He,
Have some
he
dinner.
opens his door and lets you back out. By the time you get back outside Precinct 7A, it is now pitch black and freezing cold.
Home for the night, gentlemen, or unless anyone's got any other plans.
I think I need some rest.
Yes.
What's the address of the Juju house?
1 Ransom Court, Harlem, which I think, hold on a second.
Could drop by. It's night.
Yeah, it's just off West
That-
137th Street, East Lenox Avenue.
If there's cult activity there, and the victims were going there at night, there may be some activity that we might spot.
Okay.
So go there to observe.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we go in, just suggesting that we see whether there's lights on what the
Yeah.
lie of the land is.
Saturday night, maybe.
Well, it's a shop, isn't it? It's not
yeah.
it's not a club, unless there's a speakeasy.
Unless
Maybe
it
there's a
is.
speakeasy there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saturday night's the time to find that out.
Exactly. And if it's a speakeasy, then maybe we go for a drink. Anyway, let's not preempt. Let's investigate.
Okay, so you're going to head into Harlem, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Is it dangerous there to walk the streets at night? Should we get a cab there?
Well, it's freezing cold for starters, so I would rather
Yeah.
get a cab
There's
anyway.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're just going to get a cab and then ask him to drive you to to Ransom Court, yeah?
Yeah, not that close. We'll walk up at the end of the road.
Okay, so he drops you off at the end of
Up.
he drops you off at the end. Drops you off just further down the road on West 137th Street. And you're just going to wander up. Basically, it's you wander up 137th Street. There are shop fronts on one side of the street, and then on the other side there are kind of private tenements. And on that side of the street, where the tenements are, you see an opening to an alleyway, which has a sign on it which says Ransom Court. It's a cluttered alley. So you basically the court itself is off the main 137th Street. You have to go down an alleyway.
Okay.
You see that there are quite a few. There are a kind of couple of groups of African American men hanging around in the street, not necessarily near the alleyway, but just like in general. If you know that, and there is a reasonably large police presence in Harlem as well at night. Cause there's quite a lot of tension between the locals and the police. So it's not the best place to be a white American at night, or even a white Englishman at night. But if you keep
How do
yourself to
Canadians get on?
the Canadians, they're the worst. Tell you. They're the worst. Okay. Yeah. So, what are you going to do when you get to the head of the alleyway?
I think we should just take a wander down. Coat up, hat down, take a wander down the alley.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Do we all have our pistols with us?
I don't.
Yes, I always can.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got mine. I've got increasingly paranoid recently.
And of course, I
Okay.
have my bag with me.
I'm going to try not to be. I'm going to try and be stealthy.
Yeah.
Keep to the shadows.
Okay. You make your way down the alleyway. It's only a short alleyway, and it runs between the tenement houses, either side on the street, and then it opens into a 20-foot square court. You can see the door which opens. There are two doors which open off the square. One of the doors opens. You can't. Well, one of the doors it just goes into a property that you can't really see what it is. It seems to be a back door to maybe a shop or something. The other door has a small window next to it, which is curtained, and you can see Juju House written on the door in kind of African writing.
Anybody fancy a drink?
Yep.
There are no lights. Doesn't seem to be any light coming from behind either of the doors or through any cracks or in the window or anything like that.
I'm going to go up to the door and listen at it, see whether I can hear any
Okay. I'm going to make a listen roll for you.
singing Fat Sam's Grand Slam speakeasy.
No, above the kind of traffic noise of the streets either side of you, you can't hear anything coming through the door. No, everything seems quiet now.
What time is it?
It's about 7 o'clock.
A bit early, maybe. We could knock, or we could wait and see whether anybody comes down and we're going to be attracting attention, or should we just leave?
Yes, I think we should just leave. I'd be happy with that.
Everybody else?
I'm rather uncomfortable here.
I think we need a bit more of an idea what we're dealing with before we get too close.
Okay, as you're talking in the square, you see the flash of a flashlight in the alleyway, and you see that there are two figures approaching. You can't really. It's hard to see because they've got the torches and you haven't.
Okay. We'll start walking towards them. Probably police.
Okay, you see as you get close to them, you see there are two policemen approaching you. Hey, yous! What are you doing hanging around here?
Well, I'm terribly sorry, officer. I appear to be lost.
That away, he says, and just with his thumb, gestures back up the alleyway.
Thank you very much.
Okay, he follows. Are you going to go past?
Yeah.
Okay. They both follow you, the policeman. And where are you heading?
I was trying to find Times Square. I appear to be very lost.
Times Square. What? You're having a laugh?
I'm sorry. This is my first time in the city. It's a bit different from London.
They just shake their head and start laughing. If you're going to get lost in New York, make sure it isn't in Harlem.
Thankfully, you good officers were there to set us on our way. So down there, you say?
No, well, wait here. One of the policemen steps out on the road and hails a cab. Says, "There you go. There's your ticket out of here."
Excellent. Fantastic service. If only the bobbies in London were as friendly. Thanks ever so.
Have a good day.
Okay, I'll get in the cab.
Okay, you get in the cab. Where are you going?
Times Square.
There are people here in New York that I could talk to who might know a little bit more about Captain Robson and his reputation.
Well, do you not think it a bit suspicious as well that we were down there for a couple of minutes and then police turned up? I mean, I know there's an increased police presence, but maybe that location's protected.
Maybe they're going there to collect.
It's all a little bit suspicious. So, in answer to your question, Jacob, I think yes, we should see what we can find out.
Saturday night's probably the best time to find them as well.
Excellent. We are in your hands.
Darren, I've got some contacts in New York. I'd be looking for someone who might know a little bit about whether Captain Robson has a reputation for being bent.
Okay. So how are you going to go? How are you going to go about trying to locate your contacts?
I'd probably be looking for a speakeasy that I know that they're likely to be in on a Saturday night.
Okay. Are you going to need to do that alone, or are you going to take the rest with you?
I don't want to go too mob-handed. I think it might be better if I either do it alone or just take one of you with me, gentlemen.
If you feel safe, do it alone.
If you don't feel safe, take me.
Yeah, well.
So I was just asking whether your contacts are going to be like close to your in the Upper East Side.
Probably not.
Okay.
They're likely to be in some of the more seedier parts of New York.
Okay. Well, Harlem certainly counts as one of those.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you going to go? Or are you going to get out on your own, or are you going to get somebody to come with you?
I think I might go alone, gentlemen. These are the kind of people who can become a bit suspicious. I'll only be a couple of hours.
No, makes sense. Shall we? Well, I'm going to go and get a spot of dinner. Meet you later.
Yeah. So,
okay. So So if you guys each arrange to meet at a diner after he's after a couple of hours, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just take a cab straight there rather than messing around. Too cold.
Okay. Can I get you to make a luck roll, please?
No.
No, you can't.
As in, no, I failed.
Okay.
Never a snitch around when you need one.
Wait a second. The rest of you've all gone to a diner, by the way, so you can talk as freely as you like, or not.
How are the investments going, Lex? Not telling.
I think it was a sensible move to to leave the Juju house. So we don't really know what we're dealing with.
My suspicion is that it's a speakeasy and a cover for cultist activity, and they pick on the clientele either by drugging them or following them and then using as sacrifice. And the import business provides them with the materials from the dark continent that they need for their activities. But short of putting ourselves in there and becoming bait, there is no way of proving that. Perhaps a little bit of surreptitious breaking and entry.
Yeah, I don't fancy our chances of.
Well, we don't exactly fit in, do we?
I mean, they do say that it's attracted people from all over the city, but even so.
Well, we could just pretend to be. I could be an Englishman in New York. But again, that just makes us more of a victim target. We're enough as a target as it is without putting ourselves in that position.
Okay, Jacob.
Yeah.
You go to one of your. You walk around various haunts in Harlem. Well, 3, in fact, that you know that your contacts are normally at, but unfortunately, none of them are in tonight. You go to Teddy's Saloon, the last one, which is the one that you'd expect to be like almost like a guarantee. But you're told you ask around, and unfortunately, the 2 contacts that you have at Teddy's Saloon aren't there. What are you going to do?
I'll head back to the diner. Perhaps try again another night.
Okay, you're back at the diner now.
I think the cold might be keeping everyone at home this evening, gentlemen. Couldn't find the people I was looking for, but I'm sure I can track them down another evening.
Well, what does that leave us with for the rest of the night then? Nothing, I would suggest.
Yeah.
Lex, I think you need to put your feet up and get a good night's rest.
Home, sleep, reconvene again tomorrow and put the pieces together in a different way and see if we have a different way to progress. Although I fear that everything towards the...
There is one line of inquiry. Jack, within Jackson's papers, he had the flyer from the lecture by Anthony Cowles, PhD, a fellow of Polynesian Esoterica at Miskatonic University in Arkham, but it was entitled The Cult of Darkness. He may be a valuable source of knowledge about the Bloody Tongue.
Sure,
obviously not for tonight.
Or for tomorrow. I'm not sure that Sunday is going to be the best time to try and get in touch. But yes, we should not lose sight of the additional lines of inquiry.
Yeah, the talk was a while ago, wasn't it? So almost certainly headed back to Arkham.
And again, not for a Sunday, but there's that reporter at the New York Times that was mentioned.
Might be worth reaching out to the reporter on Monday, before the funeral.
Okay, so any more plans for the rest of the evening? Call it a day.
So. Call it a night.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the plans for meeting up tomorrow? Are there any?
Pick a diner, meet for breakfast.
Okay.
We are going to be so fat.
We don't have to have waffles with bacon and maple syrup every
Heresy.
Okay, you all head back to your various abodes. And yeah, you've been travelling around the city quite a lot today. So even though your minds are whirring with information, you seem drop off to sleep and are pleased when the next day dawns, Sunday, and again heading out into the clear but cold January air. You meet up at a convenient Midway diner. Sunday it is. What are the plans?
Very good question. Jacob, any chance you'd be able to find your contacts today, or is that a nighttime only activity?
They're best found at night in certain speakeasies.
Right. So, gentlemen, suggested actions. What do we have?
We've got the academic at the Miskatonic. We've got the journalist.
Do we want to attract the attention of a journalist at the moment?
Probably not.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? They'll be asking more questions than us.
Yeah.
Before we know it, we'll be on page 7. Okay.
I've
Or in between.
It's not page 3.
You'll be in the funnies.
You need to
As long as
say
we're
your
not in
site.
the obituaries.
You need to say your site's highest, Denton. Front page 2 at least.
Yeah.
The obituaries are on page 37, so we can stay out of that. I'll be happy. We could always go back to Harlem in the daytime.
To what end, though?
See if there are police around all the time.
Yeah. If they are, we'll have some difficult questions to answer. They're like, you again? I'm lost again.
Yeah.
Juju House, though, was a customer of
Yeah.
uh,
Yes, of the import-export company, and we know the name of the manager. But it's not going to be open for trading on a Sunday, is it?
No.
prominently for back door.
I don't know. I'm increasingly feeling that an investigation of the Juju House would probably reveal it's going to crack this case wide open, but it also might swiftly end to our demise. Not very good for not attracting attention breaking into somewhere.
No. Plus, it's, actual crime.
They seem to have the police on the payroll as well. I don't think it
Well,
was a
yeah.
coincidence that we were found so
No,
quickly.
I don't think it was a coincidence either. But I think we can just assume that some police are on the payroll. Now, whether they're on the payroll just because they're on the take or they're on the payroll because they're part of the cult, the end result's really not that different for us.
No.
I think we can just assume that the police are not our friends and certainly not when we're around Harlem. How do we get evidence that we can take to his sister? What would be... I don't think we're going to really find something in New York, unless it was something that he'd written, the brother had written post when he was supposed to be dead, but fairly unlikely.
Unless she
No.
would be interested in the connection that the Bloody Tongue have with New York and the murders. She probably knows that they're responsible for the attacks in Africa.
Got a difficult conversation if she doesn't know.
Yeah. Could be again be a very quick way to get ourselves arrested as well, going and spouting those kind of conspiracy theories to an heiress.
Yeah.
Because as far as she's concerned, her brother's dead.
But she went a long way to try and find out what became of him. I would have thought
Yeah.
she'll be interested in anything that might shed light on that.
But she's got closure, hasn't she? She believes that the bodies that were found, disfigured though they were those of the expedition. We don't have anything other than Jackson's notes to suggest that that's not the case. The imports that were going to the Juju House, they were just trinkets, weren't they? They weren't anything.
Yeah, you were told that they were just fetishes, masks, weapons, and just general ornaments, really.
Yeah, of souvenir shop trinket kind of.
Is Adam trying to speak? Because I can't hear him.
Yep. Oh, he's gone all 3PO.
No, he's gone.
And he's back.
Back.
Back in the room. No, he's not.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was happily chatting away.
Yeah, we
And
could
then-
kind of hear half of what you're doing in Norman Collier.
Yeah, so Carlisle.
Was finger on the
Alive.
pulse with your cultural comments there, Darren.
Yes.
Was that sorry?
You got the finger on the pulse with those pop culture comments.
Fresh reference, yeah.
Sorry about that. I don't know anybody else who does that. He does that act more update. He's my only reference for that.
Fantastic that
Yes.
somebody could actually make a career out of that. Anyway,
Yeah, so all we have to take to break a Carlisle is just the wanderings of someone who now can't speak for themselves. So it's not enough, is it? But I think we could do with the help at a later stage, certainly. So if we get any more information from the Harvard University Library or this chap that's leading the seminars, will any of that information help us in finding out what is in the Juju House?
we can go and knock. I mean, we're pretty much convinced that that's the hornet's nest that we're just about to go and kick over, aren't we?
Yeah.
And what we want from there, if we were to go, would be evidence, names, addresses, and presumably to bring his activities to a close, either directly or indirectly.
Yeah, and how are we going to do that?
No idea. Because normally you'd want the police to raid the place and shut it down.
What's a death cult doing in New York?
Killing people.
They're based in East Africa. What
Well, is it
brings
not
them
supposed
here?
to? But is this not supposed to be? Jackson was suggesting this was some kind of global threat.
What did death cults want?
Power.
Do they?
Yep, power over people.
But to what end? What use is it?
Depending on who they worship, maybe they're trying to bring the end of mankind for the greatness of whatever it is that they're worshipping.
So there's something else at the centre. It's not just the concept of death. There's some sort of...
Yeah, I don't think we need to be hung up on the death aspect of it. It's just a cult.
I can't get my head around it. It's just, I don't understand. What's the point?
Well, maybe they have seen things that have caused them to believe what normal people would not believe. If you think about what we experienced in Peru, or what was on the other side of the wall in that pyramid, if we came face to face with that, and it
Do we still
got
count as normal people?
yeah, and it got into your mind, who knows? You know what zealots do in the name of God, and that's based on faith. What would you do if you were literally faced with a God that told you to do something? It's not surprising they're doing what they're doing if they literally have seen the face of their God, or that they absolutely believe that's what they're working towards. I mean, I hope to, whatever God there is, that we don't encounter something like we encountered in Peru. But it sounds like what they certainly believe in something similar. Whether or not that is real or not, they believe it's real. So I mean, they're obviously willing to kill for what they believe in. I dread to say it, but I suspect the only way that we're going to stop them in the same way. So when we come back to the what do we do in the Juju house, how do you stop it? Ask them nicely, go to the police, but then equally I don't want to go in there and start a gunfight. They could just be sick in their head. Or they could be playing. No enough dilettantes that enjoy seances, harmless fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what we do.
Be interesting to see who attends the funeral on Monday.
Or who's standing nearby watching who attends the funeral on Monday. I mean,
A reporter will be there, no doubt.
In all fairness, we should probably not attend if we wish to remain anonymous. We will draw attention to ourselves, and whoever killed Jackson will be watching, and then they'll know our faces. But is that what we want? Do we want them to? Do we want to draw them to us?
Not overly keen about being drawn to us.
They're going to find out eventually anyway, without us actively making it easier for them. Sorry, we're talking ourselves round in circles. I think we are. The obvious place to go if we want to find out anything of any substance is the Juju house. Everything else that we learn is going to point us back there, I would say. Would you not? It's going to provide us slightly more context of what the cult might be and the relationships between the people, but that location is the center of the web.
I agree. Just wondering the how.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that. I mean, we've already had one abortive attempt of trying to go in there last night where we walked in, stood there, bottled it, turned around, walked away again. Certainly going there during the day, a trading day would probably be, well, actually, maybe not. Maybe today would be a good day to go, because if it's not occupied, Jacob could mend the clock, and we can have and then we could have a look. In fact, the more I think about it, the more I think that's a good idea. So there's going to be the fewest number of people around. What do you think?
I'm worried about just wandering in. But
you're concerned about wandering in? I mean, we're going in there to try and, well, we're going to be breaking in, aren't we? And
I'm concerned about getting out again.
Yeah.
It's what we find in there. And
I think you may need to leave the car outside. Quick getaway.
Do you think that leaving a car on the street in Harlem would be would probably attract even more attention if there's a car running or a car left in a street that doesn't normally have? Well, I don't have a car, so I don't know whether anyone's got a particularly fancy car that would look out of place there.
I did think about buying a pickup. I thought, Okay. But then when I got to the city, kind of realised I don't really need it,
No.
but I do like a pickup.
They may come in handy later on. Well, my suggestion is that we pay the Juju house a visit, knock on the door, invite ourselves in, and have a conversation with the owner about his import, export, and whether he would be interested in purchasing and distributing higher value items based on our own activities. But if he's not there, then we let ourselves in and have a look around, unless anybody's got any better ideas, because that's all I've got at the moment.
Well, the only thing I can think of is wait and see who turns up to the funeral on Monday, and then perhaps also follow up Professor Cowles on Monday and see if we can learn more about the bloody tongue from him.
I tend to agree with Jacob. Seems the safe course of action at the moment.
It gives Lex another couple of days to recover before we go into Juju House. I think I agree with you, Douglas. At some stage, we're going to have to. But I just wonder whether there might be a few more things or leads we can pursue before we take that step.
I'm fine with that. Just trying to get us to a consensus.
Yeah, just it's Sunday today and the funeral's tomorrow, which is Monday.
Oh, in which case, gentlemen, shall we have a day off?
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, I agree. So our attendance to the funeral tomorrow, together.
Perhaps I could try my contacts again tonight, just and see if I can find out a bit more about Captain Robson.
Okay. Yep. So everybody's going to go back, and you're going to go and try your contact again. Yeah.
Yeah, this evening. Yeah.
Okay.
Teddy's.
You're going to go to Teddy's. Okay.
Yeah.
Make a luck roll with a bonus dice, please.
Yes. That's 11. That's
Cool.
with a
Okay.
bonus die.
So, what information are you trying to decide get out of your contact?
Really, I'm not going to go too specific. Just whether they've heard of Captain Robson and whether he might be one of those police officers who's friendly to in organised crime circles and might be on the payroll.
Okay.
I suppose also whether he has a presence in Harlem as well.
Okay. Your contact tells you that Captain Robson is well known in Harlem for being, he's hated by the local populace. Your contact is an African American gentleman, and Robson is well known for being racist and fitting up blacks for any crimes that he can, blaming all the issues in Harlem on blacks, and generally being an odious individual. The rumours are that he is in the pay of several criminal gangs. Interestingly as well, which he also your contact also mentions that he was responsible for framing Hilton Adams, and that Hilton Adams is well known in Harlem. He used to be a Harlem. He fought in the First World War and was in the Harlem Hellfighters, and some of his friends still drinking here in Teddy's.
Is there anyone they could introduce me to?
He says that he could introduce you to Art Mills, who's a jazz musician, but he normally plays on a Monday night in here. He's a good friend. There's Needham Johnson, Douglas Fells, Art Mills, and Jackie Wallace. They all served in the same unit as Hilton Adams in the war, and they had campaigned for quite a long time for Hilton released, but they've now given up because he kind of says that there are reasons why they've given up, mainly because either the church or their work or their family have been have made it clear that carrying on with the campaign would not be a good idea. Their families have been threatened, and the kind of the church elders have even done sermons telling them the error of their ways. So yeah, it's not a particularly happy scenario.
Okay, well maybe that's something I can follow up again on Monday night after the funeral.
The contact also warns you that you might have to tread carefully because they don't generally take kindly to talking about him. Your contact thinks that they feel guilty about abandoning him.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so Monday morning comes around. Are you planning on doing anything, or because the funeral, I think is at 2:00. Yeah, 2:00
Mm-hmm.
in Cypress Hill Cemetery, Brooklyn. Are you just going to head there, or are you going to do anything else first? Probably just head there because there was nothing else you could do yesterday.
I was Professor Cowles at the Miskatonic. Is it worth trying to contact him?
Yeah.
I can't see why not.
Another phone call.
Okay.
What should we tell him?
Ooh.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Hi, how you doing? A dead friend had a flyer to your show. Tell us about your...
And now he's dead.
Yeah.
How about I was very much looking forward to your speaking tour. Unfortunately, I missed it. Are you planning on doing another one? If not, would it be possible to receive a transcript? Usually asked matter in such matters.
Yeah, it's a way in, but we ideally we want to find out what he knows about the bloody tongue.
Well, you could.
How do we get from there to there?
Well, so that's why you investigate. So that's the what is being investigated. So that's we go researching the bloody tongue. I understand that you were talking about that as part of your speech. Was that correct, Celine?
Yeah.
It's a bit on the nose, but might work.
Okay, you're going to try and put a call into Miskatonic University then?
Yeah, I think so. Everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly, I'd be supportive of that.
Okay. You're put through to Professor Cowles' department at Miskatonic University. I'm sorry, but Professor Cowles is in lectures currently.
Oh, that's a shame. I appreciate he's a very busy man. I was hoping you might be able to help me. A friend of mine told me about a talk he did, The Cult of Darkness.
Yes. Yeah.
I was most disappointed to miss it. Is there a transcript available?
Yeah, I really wouldn't be able to tell you. I probably would need to speak to the professor about that. So shall I get him to maybe contact you?
Yes, I'll yes, perhaps if I leave my name and number. As I say, I'm particularly interested in trying to obtain a transcript of the talk. I was most disappointed to miss it. A
So
particular
where would be the
interest.
best? Well, I'll take your details. And when would be the best time for him to contact you, and how's the best to reach you?
Well, I'll give you my name. It's Jacob Lockhart, and I'll give you my number. I'll be unavailable this afternoon, but I'm so keen to speak to the professor that quite frankly any time would be convenient.
So are you giving him your business number, are you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he normally finishes lectures at about 5 p.m. So would it be convenient for him to call you back then?
Yes, it would. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not when people have jobs.
Yeah.
How very dare they?
Okay, are you going to kind of bide your time and head towards the funeral to arrive for 2:00? Yeah.
So
The funeral, are we all going to arrive together separately?
I think we should arrive separately and not talk to each other and stand separately, so it doesn't look like we're a group of four. I think that's a little bit too obvious.
Yeah. I
Okay, so
agree.
you're making an effort during the whole funeral. You're going to turn up separately, and you're not going to talk to each other at all, no?
Only to we might speak to each other to the extent that pleasantries or shake hands or something like that, as you would do to anybody else at the funeral.
Yeah. Okay. Understood.
Obviously, Jackson's publisher Jonah's going to be there, so I suppose we'll end up having to talk to him. But yeah, we can try and keep apart.
Yeah, and I'll go make sure keep an eye out for anybody who is watching the funeral. Anybody standing at a distance, that kind of thing.
Okay. Right, you're all heading to the funeral separately.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Miriam as well to try and talk to.
Okay, a friend to the last, Jonah Kensington, has made arrangements to have Jackson buried in the Evergreen Cemetery in Brooklyn. The service is held in the cemetery's chapel, the picturesque stone building used when the decedent has no local church. Due to the condition of the deceased, there is no viewing of the body. Turnout is small, with the only mourners you recognise being Jonah Kensington, Lieutenant Poole, and a barman you have seen previously in the Hotel Chelsea. Aside from these individuals, the remaining attendees are comprised of a small, wiry, bespectacled African-American man in his mid-50s wearing an expensive bespoke suit and tailored overcoat. He attends with Jonah Kensington and is in conversation with him consistently. A petite, fashionable dressed young woman with wavy black hair and bright red lipstick who carries a note. A slender, angular, middle-aged woman with curly grey and blonde hair, round spectacles, and a necklace of cultured pearls. A red-headed, rotund young gentleman wearing an ill-fitting suit and a scraggly beard. A tall, freckle-faced young woman with dark hair worn in plaits. A lean, athletic-looking man in his early 40s with a neatly styled widow's peak, piercing blue eyes, and impressively contoured jaw and cheekbones. And then lastly, a pale, attractive, elegant woman in her late 30s. Her dark hair cut in a fashionable short bob, she clasps a white lily to her chest. The service is conducted by Rev. Lawrence T. Odell Jr., a minister with Seaman's Church in Manhattan. While Jackson was ostensibly a Christian, he did not regularly attend any services, and Kensington, otherwise at a loss, asked the church, a branch of the Episcopalian Church which provides ministers to ships and sailors in New York Harbor, to provide an officiant for the service. The Reverend, a quiet-spoken, considerate African-American man in his 40s, has spent the preceding day looking over Kensington's notes on Jackson's writings. The eulogy he gives begins with the reading of Psalm 13 and is surprisingly moving, touching on Jackson's wanderlust, generosity of spirit, ability to quickly make friends, and his dedication to triumph of truth and civilization over falsehood and barbarism. He proclaims the relatively small turnout to be a sign that Jackson was a man of no fixed home. Only the world itself is a large or fine enough cathedral to contain all of those who mourn his passing. His comments end with the hymn Sunset and Evening Star, which is performed a cappella by Reverend Odell and anyone wishing to join in. The only scheduled other speaker is Jonah Kensington. His words are few, but his friendship with Jackson is clear as his emotion. His friendship with Jackson was one of several decades, beginning with when both were copy boys at the New York Observer. Kensington offers a few anecdotes highlighting the depth of their friendship and Jackson's virtues. He concludes by saying that he almost awaits some quick telegram from Jackson in heaven, asking for financing to cover expenses, with the promise of interviews with evangelists and the chance at an exclusive with Satan if time permits. Okay. So I'm just about to send you a message. So this is during the service. You all sat apart from each other, you said, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the service is concluded, and you are free once the so it's inside. It took place inside the chapel because of how cold it is outside. And then once the service is concluded, everybody kind of mingles and begins chatting to each other. The first thing that happens is that Jonah Kensington brings the gentleman that I mentioned, the small, wiry, bespectacled African-American gentleman. Are you guys not all standing together? You're all still standing apart, are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I quite like to go to have a chat with Jonah and get introduced to, and also have a chance to ask him who else is there.
Okay, you go up to Jonah, and Jonah says, "Good afternoon. It's Jacob, isn't it?"
It is, Jonah. I just wanted to say how lovely those words were.
I wish they're words that I wish I did not ever have to speak. Forgive me. Let me introduce you, Carlton. This is Jacob. He is one of the gentlemen I was telling you about, who accompanied. Yes, I know all about him, Carlton says. I am Carlton Ramsey. I was Jackson's attorney.
Pleased to meet you. It's a shame we couldn't have met under better circumstances.
Indeed. I have acted for Mr. Elias for as long as he's been a professional writer. I cannot believe it. As well as dealing with his contracts and the occasional legal entanglement, I also managed his finances, and I carried out his administrative functions whenever he was travelling the world. I cannot believe he's no longer with us. I was also a friend of Jackson's. You may not know this, Jacob, but he included you in his will, and also all of your other companions that accompanied him to Peru.
Did he? I'm
Yes.
surprised.
Who he turns to Jonah as well. Who are the others? I mean, if it's turning back to you, Jacob. If it's suitable, we could maybe head to my office in Harlem for the reading. I mean, if you would like to take some more time to mourn, I understand. We can certainly reschedule for whatever time you wish, but I'm happy to do it now if you have nothing else planned.
Perhaps we could meet there in an hour or so.
Of course. Ramsey and Co. It's in Harlem on 124th Street and Lenox Avenue.
I'll gather the others and we'll meet you there in an hour. Thank you, Colton.
The rest of the what are the rest of you doing?
Milling. I'm watching the door.
Yeah, just sort of
Lex, you go
hovering.
the the petite, fashionable dressed young woman with wavy black hair and bright red lipstick comes straight over to you. She kind of does the half a curtsy and says, "Delighted to meet you, Rebecca Schosenberg, New York Times."
Pleased to meet you, Miss Rosenberg.
Did you know? Did you know the deceased well?
I wouldn't say very well, but we had travelled a little bit together.
Travelled, yes. I hear he was a great traveller.
Yes, yeah. Great writer as well. I've always enjoyed his books. Not that I'm a tremendous reader myself, but so he's an interesting man. It's very, very sad. What brings you here? Did you know the deceased?
No, I'm just reporting. Well, obviously it's the way that he died. It's not normal, is it?
No, he was
Terrible
murdered.
way
I
to go.
understand.
What do you know about his murderers?
I just know what I read in the paper. His body was found in a hotel, I believe. A hotel in Chelsea.
Yeah,
But,
so you hadn't seen him recently then?
no, unfortunately not. Much to my chagrin.
Shame.
You didn't get a chance to meet him at all. That is a shame.
Do you think that? Because some are saying that there's some sort of cult connection to his murder. What do you think about that?
I did read in the paper that there was a possible connection. What other murders are these?
Well, there's been several murders in Harlem over the past months.
I see. I'm not very up with it. I live near the docks myself. Tell me more. What are these murders?
Well, the police think they've got the man. If you've read my article, you'll have seen his name, Hilton Adams. But there are some that think that he was innocent, and the fact that another murder has happened after the murderer is in prison would suggest that might be the case. I just wonder whether you.
Is this the first? Is this the first occasion of a follow-up murder since they arrested Hilton?
Yes.
You think Hilton might have accomplices?
Well, that's what some think. I'm not so sure myself. What do you
No?
think?
You think? I don't really think anything, to be honest. I'm a simple dock worker, not really a highly educated journalist like yourself, Ms. Schosenberg.
And you're a dock worker, and you say you travelled with him. Where did you travel? What did you do?
Just as a porter mainly. I flex a little bit. Go with the gun show. I just carry the bags. Give her a big smile.
Oh well, it's good to meet you. Sorry, it's in such a sad occasion. She wanders off. Stanton, she comes up to you. Good afternoon. Well, it's not a good afternoon. I'm sorry to intrude upon your morning, but I just wondered how you knew the deceased. Oh, sorry, Rebecca Schoenberg, New York Times. She shows you a card.
Thank you. He was more of a consumer of his works. These are very interesting books covering the whole world. I was very lucky to meet him on a few occasions.
What do you think about his death?
I don't quite understand. It was terrible, obviously.
Of course, it's terrible, but I mean, who was responsible for it? I mean, a cult?
Well, quite possibly. I don't know. But I thought it was just burglars. I have no idea. Do you know something?
No, not at all. I'm just going by what I hear, that there was some sort of strange sigil carved into his forehead.
That sounds barbaric. Didn't know that. Maybe that explains the closed coffin.
Yes. Well, anyway,
I'll make
Sorry,
a bit of a grimace of a face.
what was your name again?
I'm just, as I said, I'm just a consumer. William Ainsworth.
William.
Yes.
Very nice to meet you. Okay, she walks off. Anybody else wanting to talk to anybody else, or happy just to kind of wander with the rest of the
I
mourners
just
out?
want, just before I stop talking to Jonah, I'm just going to ask him. I see a few faces I don't recognise. Jonah, are you able to help me understand who's attending today?
Well, just as you say that, well, actually, no, yeah, he starts to tell you, and whilst that happens, Douglas, a slender, angular, middle-aged woman comes up to you, a woman with greying blonde hair, round spectacles, and she says, "You wouldn't happen to be Jacob, would you, by any chance?
No, I'm afraid not.
Do you know which one he is? I spoke
Yeah.
to him on the telephone
Ah,
on
yes.
Saturday, I believe it was. Or was it? Maybe it was yesterday. I can't remember. Saturday, I think.
Yes. So I was with him when you spoke on the telephone. I can see him over there. If you would wait until he has finished talking to his friend, I'll take you over, introduce you. I hope you had a safe journey down, uneventful.
It was quite the journey. It was quite treacherous, really. The weather it hasn't helped, has it?
No, to ever get used to the harshness of the weather in the Americas. I'm sorry. After you.
Saying you obviously aren't. You're obviously from England, but how do you know Jackson?
We met on an expedition several years ago. He was a good friend. It was a horrendous shock. He had died, and still worse that he had died in terrible fashion.
It is a terrible shock, as I said to your friend the other day. I just can't believe it. But then he did, well, meddle in the affairs of some dangerous people.
Yes, and that might, in part, led to what happened to him. I hope it hasn't worried you too much, and Julie.
Well, I must admit, I've had a couple of a bit sleepless nights since I spoke to your colleague.
Yes, he mentioned that you were concerned about the disappearance of the book that Jackson was interested in. That seemed to be playing on your mind.
Yes, it has. It has. I'm usually very well, I have a photographic memory. I don't forget anything. It's part of what makes me good at my job, you see. But as I was telling a friend, this is very unusual. Something quite frustrating and also a little unnerving. I can't seem to recall. I don't even know where to begin. But I know there's something that I should know. Do you understand what I mean? Odd, isn't it?
I do know exactly what you mean. In fact, I have a friend that something similar happened to them. We couldn't tell whether it was some form of mental aberration, whether they'd been drugged, hypnotized, or
No, nothing quite so dramatic as any of those things. I think it's just maybe just a librarian getting a little bit too old.
Well, I certainly hope so. Do
Do
you recall the last time that you saw the book? I mean, around that time, is it just a book that you don't recall, or do you have a gap in your memory more broadly?
This is the strange thing. No, I do not. I'm sure that somebody asked me about it, but I can't remember who. I wouldn't have let anybody. I wouldn't have let anybody have access to the book if they weren't. But I have no recollection of anybody coming in the day that it went missing. If you understand.
Do people have to sign in to the library? Is there any way that you could go back and check your records that might jog your memory?
Yes, I did. We've already done that, and there is no record of anybody coming in on that day that I don't, that isn't a regular in the library. It's a very strange thing. I think it's just one of those things. And anyway, as it recedes into the memory, it's not going to get any clearer, is it?
No. Although what I find is sometimes when I'm trying not to think about something is when it pops back into my head. So maybe scrambling around in the recesses of your mind to try and find something is the worst way to uncover it sometimes.
Believe me, I have tried. I really have.
Yeah, there was some mention of an unpleasant smell that was because smell and taste I find often trigger memories most strongly.
Yes, it was
May-
a very odd smell. I can't even begin to describe it. It was almost like a sort of musty, tainted sort of a smell. It was not very nice at all. Very unpleasant.
Did it what more like rotten flesh smell?
Well, rotten flesh. I mean,
As
I've
in,
never really.
well, you must have in the summer when meat goes off in the pantry, that kind of smell.
Yeah, maybe, yes, something like that. I never really thought of it, but now you come to mention it, then yes, something an off sort of a smell, very unpleasant. Anyway, I wasn't able to find any other books referencing the cult that Jackson was asking about.
That is a shame. Do you have any personal knowledge of that cult?
I'm afraid not. No, my knowledge of cults really is quite superficial. It's as much as they intrigue me, I find them quite scary.
Yeah, sometimes it'd be the best way to maintain a healthy distance, I think.
Well, yes, as Paul Jackson has proved, she's wiping a tear away from her eye with a handkerchief.
Well, perhaps now would be a good moment for me to Jacob. We've travelled all
That
this
would be
way.
very kind of you. In the meantime, Jacob, you've been told that obviously you've met Carlton Ramsey already. The reporter Rebecca Scherstenberg has pointed out to you. Jonas says he doesn't know the lady who's talking to Douglas at the moment. Nor does he know the red-headed, rotund young gentleman who's with a tall, freckle-faced young woman. Doesn't know either of those two. But he says that the guy who's the lean, athletic-looking man in his early 40s, kind of a striking-looking guy with blue eyes and a widow's peak, he's an old friend of Jackson's. His name's Ezekiel Ford. He accompanied him to the Amazon basin back in 1910, to Guatemala in 1915 and India in 1918 before they fell out in early 1919. The woman next to him, the pale, attractive, elegant woman in her late 30s with the bob, her name is Hazel Claflin. She's Jackson's ex-girlfriend, the only woman that Jonah can remember Jackson having anything to do with. But unfortunately, Zeke took away his best friend's girlfriend, and they never spoke again after that. But Jonas says that he understands that they're no longer together. And there was before Jackson died, there was talk of them actually trying to patch up their differences, but obviously it's all too late for that now. So, I think that's a good place to stop, really.
Thank you so much for joining us for this 12th session of Steady Rollman Presents The Master and Nyarlathotep. Our sights are set on the Juju house, the clues are building. What will happen next for our brave investigators? We'll see you next week.